us then.
Perfect.
Great.
Marvelous. Well, I will say a quick hello and a little bit of an introduction on behalf of our classes. Again, we still might have a few joining us in the next few minutes, but just a huge thank you to you for joining us today, Sarah. It's such a pleasure to get to go live from McMurdo Station and Antarctica. Generally, not something that we get to do very often. Honestly, I think out of 3,500 broadcasts, we've been live here maybe 10, 12 times. So this is a pretty special experience, and we really appreciate you taking the chance to join us, share your expertise, share your knowledge, give us a little sense of what life is like down at the bottom of the world. So I'm going to zip my lip. This isn't about me. I know we've got a little bit less time here on Zoom, 40 minutes total with this. So if you want to dive in and share a little bit about your story and what's going on, what your day job looks like, that would be amazing for all of our students.
Great. Yes, I am super excited to be here at McMurdo Station. So thank you for the introduction, Jesse, and organizing all of this. It's really quite amazing to be broadcast into the school classrooms. So I will kick off this slideshow. Can everybody see in here? Is this all good?
You look fantastic.
Okay.
McMurdo Station, Antarctica. There you are.
Yeah, so here I am at McMurdo, and this is a picture of what it looks like from the sky. But I'm wondering if maybe that's not what you thought Antarctica would look like, because it looks like there's actually a lot of dirt and rock. And in fact, 2% of Antarctica is exposed rock. And this is a little bit of it that we live on here with the United States Antarctic Program at McMurdo. And if you can see my mouse, this brown building right here, that's where I sleep. This blue building is where I eat. And then over here in this small lighter blue building, this is where I work. And this is the mountain that I like to hike when I have free time. And right now, since it's winter, the vessel is no longer here, but it comes in January and resupplies us. So this is roughly an overview of what McMurdo looks like. And I first came here in 2008. I was doing my postgrad certificate in Antarctic studies. I came down with the New Zealand program and was base camping out on the Ross Ice Shelf at Windless Bight for 2 weeks doing a bunch of different science experiments. But I got to come through McMurdo and see the Crary Science Lab, which I'll tell you a little bit about. And that's actually where I am right now. So you can see from a different perspective, the brown building where I sleep, the blue building before was painted blue where I eat, and a better view of the light blue building where I now work. But when I was here in 2008, I had no idea that I would be back down here wintering over in 2024. So how did I get to live at the base of an active volcano? This is another zoomed out version, and you can see that McMurdo Station on Ross Island is at the base of Mount Erebus, which is an active volcano. And it has that little plume of smoke coming out the top, which is a good thing. That means that there's a little bit of activity going on rather than holding up all that activity for a bigger explosion. But it's perfectly safe to be here, and it's pretty neat when you can get out of town and see Mount Erebus. So a little bit about me. I am a physicist in astronomy is my background. I worked with the Ice Cube Neutrino Observatory at the South Pole. But when I was doing my master's in that subject, I just stared at the computer screen and downloaded data all day. Realized that I wanted to do more things that got me outside. And after that, I ended up becoming a school teacher, which I really love. And I also am to help people as an EMT and a wilderness medicine instructor. But in my free time, I'm pretty normal. I love going trail running and ice climbing and rock climbing. And I love having a good cup of tea and a conversation with a friend. And I love horses and anything outside. And as you can see, I've been that way since I was a little girl, but now I know better and I don't go outside to play in the snow without my gloves on. So where is Antarctica? So you live somewhere in America, and then you've got the Arctic, which is at the top of the world, and then the opposite of that, the Antarctica is at the bottom. But these two places are very different. The Arctic is land with water that is frozen. And that's made it really easy for people and animals to walk on up there. So there's a long history. There's a lot more land-based animals. And it's a little bit warmer because the air currents warm up as they travel over the land. Now, Antarctica is the opposite in every way. It is ocean surrounding land with ice on top. And that makes it very hard to get to. So our history with this place is much shorter. And it also means that the types of animals that can get there usually have to swim or fly. So I'm down at the bottom at Antarctica. And Antarctica is massive. Maybe you don't always see it on a map because it's usually just that small white line, but actually it's quite big. It's 1.5 times the size of America or 52 times the size of New Zealand. It's massive. And it doubles in size in the winter when the ice around it on the ocean freezes. So 3 times the size of America. It's huge. It contains 90% of the world's ice and 70% of the world's fresh water. So think about all the water you have in your drink bottles. Think about all the water in the fresh streams and lakes you might go for a swim in, and know that still 70% of the world's water is in Antarctica. It's a massive reserve of frozen water. And one of the ways to get to Antarctica is going through these gateway cities. And since the part of Antarctica that I want to get to is closest to New Zealand, we travel to Christchurch. So we go from the United States over to California and 9,000 miles from LAX, the airport there, to get to McMurdo. And we have to stop in Christchurch, New Zealand first, and then take another special plane. Some of them even have skis on them that'll take you to McMurdo. And if you want to get to South Pole from there, you have another 5-hour flight. So Antarctica is big and very far away. And you can see that the penguins, they like to live in Antarctica, but make sure you know that they all live near the coast, right? Because what do penguins eat? They eat a lot of fish, and the fish don't live in the center of the continent. They're around the edge. So that's why the penguins all live near the edge of Antarctica. And it just so happens that a lot of the stations are near the edge of Antarctica. If you can see here, there are 54 different national Antarctic programs from all over the world. And some countries have more than one base, and some share a base. So there's lots of different nationalities that are represented on this continent. And the United States Antarctic Program looks after 3 bases. You've got McMurdo Station, the Amundsen Scott South Pole Station, and Palmer Station. And I've been to these 2 stations in red. So the one at 90 South and McMurdo Station at 77 South. And I first came down to this area at Scott Base with the New Zealand program. And I've visited a few of the other international bases on the Antarctic Peninsula, and I've been working over there for some other jobs. But you can see there's a whole bunch all around the continent. So pretty neat how many different countries are here. So now you learned a little bit about Antarctica, and you can tell that it might be the highest, the driest, the coldest, the windiest, the emptiest, and the cleanest place on the planet. It's very extreme. It gets all of those superlatives. At the center of the continent, you can have up to several miles of ice before you get to that land. It's about 9,000 feet at South Pole. So you're actually living at elevation there. And the driest, there's some places where it hasn't snowed or rained in millions of years. And coldest, minus 128 degrees at Bostock. I think the coldest that I got to was minus 103 degrees when I was at South Pole Station, and that was pretty chilly. And it's the windiest, so 200 miles per hour of winds. And it's pretty windy outside this morning too, so it's whipping up a little bit. And as I said, emptiest. There's no native people. Whereas up in the Arctic, you've got the Inuit. There's nothing like that down here. The first people to come to the continent was just about 100 or so, 120 years ago. So it's really a new place for human history. And it's also the cleanest, right? There's not a whole lot of human impact that we're able to pick up down here. So it's considered to be one of the cleanest places. And to give you a little bit of an idea of how windy and cold it is, I've got a wee video to show you. So can you guys see that okay?
That was fantastic. Oh,
cool. Yeah, so that gives you a little bit idea of what those superlatives actually mean. And that is my friend Rich when we were walking out to the telescopes at the South Pole station. And you can see it's big and it's flat and it's white and it's windy. So all those things that I just said in real life. And you follow those little flag routes so that you don't get lost out there. And we have to wear all those big warm clothes so that we stay nice and warm when we're out there. But it's pretty extreme. But if you're wearing the right clothes, it's really not that bad. But that's a little bit about the weather here. But that's not what I think is the coolest thing. The thing that is most nearest and dearest to my heart is the fact that this entire place is dedicated to peace and science. In 1959, 12 different countries, they were sort of saying, I want this piece and I want this piece. Oh, and I want this piece and I want to say I want the whole thing to myself. And then they all said, stop. Actually, this place is so cool. We're going to save it for everybody. So the whole continent, 1.5 times the size of America, is dedicated to peace and science. And all those 12 countries decided to share it. And now we're up to 54. So nobody owns it. There's no prime minister. There's no president. The whole continent is dedicated to peace and science. So it doesn't matter your race, your religion, the color of your skin, whatever your background is, down here, you are an Antarctican and everybody works together. And you really, truly see that in the international cooperation that happens with resource sharing, with helping out if there's an emergency, with just midwinter greetings and the way that stations say hello and support each other. So that is what I think is the neatest thing about this place, the Antarctic Treaty, and that the whole thing is dedicated to peace and science. And yep, so here I am at McMurdo, and as I said, this is where I am right now, but I also wanted to tell you that I've also been to the South Pole Station. So this is the one that's at 90 degrees south. And it's a bit different rather than being a bunch of buildings that you have to walk outside. There's maybe one big main building and a few scattered smaller buildings outside, but mostly you stay in this one station. And it's a bit more like living in a space station sometimes than it feels like here in Antarctica. But you can see the flags out there by the front, and there's a photo of me standing outside in that iconic South Pole Station. So I spent the winter there in 2022, and I worked as a safety technician. So I was helping to keep everybody safe by making sure they had hard hats and gloves and hearing protection, and that the air quality that they were breathing was good, and they had high vis if they needed it. And I got to go visit that ice cube neutrino observatory that I worked on at my master's, but I got to go inside of it, and that was so cool. So that was one of the other jobs that I've done working for the United States Antarctic program. But today at McMurdo, let's see. So what is the weather doing? 1 degree Fahrenheit. Actually, I took this screenshot last night, and it's a lot colder this morning, and it's a lot windier. I think it's like -40 with the wind chill going on outside right now. For breakfast this morning, what do we got? We've got eggs, and we still have fresh eggs. So that's really exciting. It's Taco Tuesday here. I know it's Monday there, but it's Tuesday here. So we have Taco Tuesday, which I get really excited about. Dinner, we've got meatloaf, quinoa cakes, and mozzarella cheese. So that should be a good meal. Today, I am starting work early to talk to you guys, but normally I start at 7:30 and I work till 5:30 with a lunch break. And usually afterwards, I go to the gym and then I read a book or I do something nice and quiet and I go to bed. But as I said, today is exciting because it's Tuesday. So that means it's Taylor Tuesday and we have the southernmost Swiftie meetup in the world. I don't know if you guys like Taylor Tuesday or Taylor Swift. I don't know if I really love her, but my friend's into her. So I'm going along to support. So that's the sort of thing that we do. But other days of the week, I run a coffee shift in the morning. We've got a whole bunch of other things on. People do yoga classes. We have trivia. We have different radio shows, fun activities. Like we've got a carnival stall thing, and people are making different stalls on the Saturday. So that's just a whole bunch of different things that happen after work. And of course, the library. So that's one of the places I like to go, especially on the weekend. You can just curl up with a book and it's nice and quiet. And it can actually be hard to find a quiet spot on station. So I like going to the library after work. So what is it that we actually do here, especially if we're not recreating? So the whole idea behind having people living down here, as I was saying, is for the peace and science. And that is able to happen because the National Science Foundation with the United States Antarctic program helps support science at the bottom of the world. So very grateful for all of those resources so that we can do science down here. And Prairie Lab, where I am right now, is the largest science lab in Antarctica. Pretty cool. Because McMurdo is the largest station in Antarctica, so we have the largest lab. And there's lots of different science that happens in this space, and mostly it's biology. So I'm going to share a little bit about that. Plus, who doesn't love pictures of penguins and seals? But here's a few pictures of the Weddell seals, and we've got Adelie penguins and emperor penguins, and they all live really locally to the area. So it's very easy for scientists to come to this space and check it out. But did you think about the things that are underneath the ice? Because that's where all the creepy crawlies are. And in this building in the summer, scientists will go diving down underneath the sea ice, and they might bring up some samples, and they'll study the way that these fish work. And they've got these things, these giant spiders, and you can see they're the size of the scientist's head. One of the things that animals do to adapt down here is they put on that extra layer of blubber, like the penguins and the seals. But some of the sea creatures underneath the water get really big, and that's one of the ways that they combat the cold. So you get spiders that are way bigger than they would be anywhere else in the world. And those are all underneath the ice right now. So while the penguins and the seals have left because it's winter, all of our starfish, our sea slugs, all of those sorts of things, and the spiders, they're all still here. Again, a video usually speaks a million words. So here's a picture of a seal underneath the sea ice, and pay attention to some of the details in this video. Oh, cool. So did you get to see that? Was that okay?
Oh, amazing. And what an alien call, too. Just magnificent.
Yeah, really neat vocalization as they're talking to each other. And if you can see in the bottom right, there's one of those giant starfish that's down on the bottom of the seafloor right now. So that's right outside my window underneath the sea ice. But sometimes scientists go much further away. They go out to these field camps that can be spread out throughout the whole entire continent. And they're not permanent structures. They're mostly just a series of tents. So sometimes people come out in January, the beginning of summer, and they start to set up the tents. And they build these. Some of these are like more permanent structures, but not permanent. So they're little buildings. And they need to clear out all of the snow. And then so the scientists can come in, and field equipment specialists come in as well and help set up all of the gear. They come in on smaller planes, and then it makes like this little town, and you have all of these tents filled with scientists who do sorts of science that happen in the center of the continent, maybe studying ice cores or something about the weather. And sometimes the scientists go to the dry valleys. And this is one of those places where it hasn't precipitated rain or snow in millions of years. So it's extremely similar to the surface of Mars, or what we think it might be like. So you get a lot of NASA-related science that's happening down here, trying to understand how organisms live and grow in these little melt ponds, or in some of these rocky exposed areas that are so different than a lot of Antarctica that is covered in snow. And it's very close to McMurdo. It's an hour ride in a helicopter, so that makes it extremely accessible and easy for scientists to get to. And so here you can see this is Ross Island, where I live, and McMurdo is down here, and this is Mount Erebus, the summit of that volcano. So it's very close to the dry valleys. And there's some very special field camps out there, almost like little mini houses. And these ones, are more permanent buildings, but they're not big. They're just a few people can live there. And then most people sleep out in the tents. So they need all that gear and equipment to go out to these destinations. So what do I do at McMurdo Station? Well, it's all related to that. So I work at the Berg Field Center. So my job is managing a team of people, and we repair and prepare all of the gear that the scientists would want to take out into those field camps. So here I am in a tent, but we take care of everything from the kitchen sink to the toilet. Every piece of equipment that a scientist would want to touch, from their fork to their tent to their sleeping bag, all has to come through the Berg Field Center. And we spend the whole entire winter cleaning up things, repairing them, sewing, getting it all ready for the scientists to be able to take out into the summer. So here's a few pictures of the space, but we've got like drink bottles and thermoses and just regular water bottles. And we've got our medical first aid kits that the scientists would take out. We have backpacks and sleeping bags and pads and all sorts of sleeping kit and warm things so that people can be cozy while they're sleeping. We've got kitchen boxes, like literally everything you could need, we supply at the BFC. We have all of these tents, and we just had Mountain Tent Monday. So every Monday we chip away at this massive pile of tents that we have to take the tents out and pitch them all and sew things up and glue up the holes and make sure that everything is okay, and that a scientist would be able to take that out into the field and survive in that structure. Because if it has a little hole in it, and you get those winds whipping by at 200 miles per hour, that little hole could become a big hole. And then that scientist gets snow in their tent and they don't have a warm place to find shelter. And the weather is so extreme that doing this tasking, making sure that the equipment is up to scratch, really becomes a life or death situation, and making sure that everybody out in the field is prepared with the best equipment possible. And on the right, we also have these warm sleeping bags. So we have to work with the laundry facilities here and clean all those sleeping bags and make sure that they are all ready to go back out into the field. Ooh, and here's some more pictures of this space. On the right over here, we've got our climbing room where we have ice screws and crampons and ice axes and rope and helmets and all of the gear that you might need to walk up and down a glacier or out onto the sea ice, and that very technical aspect of keeping yourself safe in Antarctica. And we've got the sewing room here, which is a really fun place to work in. So I'm getting really good at my sewing. We've got big industrial sewing machines that can get through thick fabric of tents. And so that's been a really fun part of my job, is getting better at sewing. And I said the kitchen sink. So we've got our kitchen room, and you can see we've got bowls and mugs, and we give them sometimes cookers to take out and thermoses and cook pots, and we have to test all of the stoves. There's so many different things that the scientists need to take out there, and we help make sure that it's all okay. And then we've got a fun, funky little space, and we've got a few couches where we can have our morning tea, and there's a lot of knickknacks and artifacts from various field camps that people have gone out to, and maybe they've got a rock they've brought back, or we have a whole collection of broken gear that we just think is fun to have on display, but we would never give out to anybody anymore. So it's a really fun energy and atmosphere, and we've got lots of fairy lights up around the place. So I really like working there too. Oh, here's some more tents. These are the big tents. These are the Scott Polar tents, and I'll show you a picture of those later. But I want you to get an idea of the storage that we have to keep all of these tents. And then over here is another one of those smaller tents, the mountain tents, that would go out to some of the field camps as well. But check out this Scott Polar tent. And it is so satisfying for me to be working at the BFC, because I took one of these tents out when I was down in grad school doing research. So I understand how important it is to have a good tent, and how much you learn to love that little shelter becomes your home when you live in it for a couple of weeks. So now that I'm taking care of these tents for other scientists to take out, I get a lot of pride in that work. And it's really fun for me to understand the full cycle of what's going to happen to this tent on the other end, and how important it is what I'm doing every day. And here's some pictures of me repairing these tents, making sure that the shock cord in the poles is okay. And over here on the right, making sure there's no holes, looking at a beam of light coming up through the tent, and then it's a lot easier to see if there's holes. But I also hope you remember, I said from the kitchen sink to the bathroom. So part of my job is to clean out pee bottles or hope that other people clean their pee bottles, but they don't always. So we have to give them another re-clean because there's lots of rules to protect Antarctica. So you can't just go to the bathroom anywhere you want. The seals and the penguins can, but not us humans. So if we have to go to the bathroom, we have to contain it in a way to take it off ice to get it processed. So some of your waste will come back to McMurdo and some of it will end up leaving continent entirely. So it's a lot to think about, but it's also part of my important job. And I also used it in the field. So here's our bathroom. It was a little bit chilly, so you did your business quickly, but the view was fantastic. And so again, I can appreciate how important it is having this gear for the scientists to take out into the field. And I work with two other people, me, and then there's Katie from Alaska and Dane from Indiana. And the team of us, we work together in this building of the BFC. And here we are hiking up Observation Hill, or Ob Hill, as we affectionately call it, on one of our lunch breaks. So they're a really great team to work with. And that makes me excited that I love the people that I go to work with at the BFC. So that's a little bit about Antarctica and what I do down here. And I really love being here and supporting science. It feels like I'm having a direct impact, that helping these scientists get their gear together when they want to come down in the summertime and be out there and be safe brings me a lot of rewards. And a quote that I wanted to share with you is really nice by Astley Cherry Gerard, and he was one of the explorers that went down with Scott. So the quote is, "Exploration is the physical expression of the intellectual passion." And it kind of just means that to me that you've got to get out there and be curious, that it's not enough to wonder about things. You've got to go turn over those rocks and keep asking the questions. And I feel like I was that kind of kid that pestered every adult around me, asking the questions about, why does this happen? What happens if I do this? And I realized that it was studying physics that allowed me to explain that. And I really loved learning about science. And I really love my job now as I help to support the scientists. And I get to play outside and be down here on the ice. So I hope you learned a little bit about Antarctica, and it makes you think about the world and the space that we live in. And you get out there and maybe you like studying tropical islands. So it doesn't matter if you don't want to come to Antarctica and you don't like being cold, that's perfectly fine. But just stay curious.
I think, Sarah, I'm going to have to hop on the first plane down there because it sounds like an absolute hoot, and what a special, special spot. As you come out of screen share and we dive in with a little Q&A with our classes and students here today, I just want to note it's really fun for me getting the chance to interact with explorers and scientists from all over the world, because literally every time we have someone that's been to Antarctica, off the coast of Antarctica, no matter what their situation is, it sticks with them so, so much. It's so amazing to get the chance to have people share these stories, because it's it is the most unique place on planet Earth. So a big thank you to you guys as an audience for sticking around today and listening to this fantastic program. We've got 10 minutes for Q&A. That's a good reminder. And so on that note, I'm going to go to Ms. Michael's class first, our Glenview, Illinois crew. If you guys want to unmute your mic, we're going to take as many questions as we can over the next 10 minutes together. And if you email more to me after, I'm sure Sarah would be happy to answer a few extras after the broadcast is done. So that would be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. What have you guys got?
Perfect. Hey, Ms. Michael.
Okay, here we are. Well, come on up. We weren't quite ready for you. There you go. Hi.
So, from where I am, which is Illinois, how many miles would it be to get to Antarctica?
About 9,000 miles, maybe a little bit more than that. I know, right? It's so far away. 9,000 miles. You couldn't drive there in a car.
Amazing.
Thank you so much. And please excuse us. We are eating our lunch.
Oh.
Yeah, no.
Don't worry.
Miss Michael's class always comes in for lunch hour. Makes it so much better. We're all having a meal. It's perfect. I want to head to Miss Coburn's crew, our Dalewood School. If you want to flick on your mic and share a question, you are good to go. Hey.
Thank you, Sarah. I just want to let you know we have a remote class here that's grade 7 and 8, and we're beginning to record our journeys. Have you had any experience with recording all of your experiences, such as using a website or a blog, and some hints you might be able to give us?
I do have a website and a blog. I'm not always very good at writing in it. And I have Instagram where I have my little penguin and he travels around with me and I take pictures in fun spots. So that would be something if you're curious. But I think it's just fun to write and record. I keep things in a personal diary, but I think if you're trying to record things, it's better to just record anything and not worry about making it perfect. But just that snapshot of that moment in time can be really significant, and you don't realize that till later always.
Yeah, and it's significant. I keep telling my kids it's significant to them, and it's their blog, right? So I appreciate you saying what I said to them.
I know sometimes it matters.
Sarah, a quick query. That is windowless classroom, yes? Because I can put that in the chat for everybody.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, I got it. You guys can all check out Sarah's blog when you're done, and email me at exploring by the seat of your pants if you want even more info. Our North Country School guys, if you want to join in, our North Country School folks joining us in Lake Placid, come on in. Feel free to unmute your mic, flick on your camera, whatever you'd like, and we'll take a question from you. Sarah, you look very excited about that.
Yes, when I go back to America, that's where I go back to.
Hey, all the better. But yeah, there we are.
There we are. Hi, Sarah. I miss you.
Oh my gosh, I wish I was there right now, but it's so lovely to see you on here.
Hugs through the screen. I would like to know what it is like living in complete darkness for 4 months. How is that on your emotional state? What does it feel like to not see the sun?
My emotions certainly do go all over the place, but I actually really love the night. I love the darkness. I love the stars and the auroras, and I'm an astronomer, so that's where my passion lies. And the moon is the most beautiful thing. So actually, by the time the sun comes back up, I'm a bit of a vampire hiding under the covers telling it to go away.
Thank you, Sarah. Anybody else have a question? No, thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, guys. What a lovely little connection. We actually have a few viewers that are online. If anyone else wants to chime into the chat, I know everyone else just signed up for a sort of a typing in spot. But Ms. Michael's crew, if you guys have another question, we've got 5.5 minutes left, so feel free to flick it on.
Of course we do. Of course we do. Let's see. Let's see. Zahra, you were begging me a question. Okay, here's Zahra.
Hi.
There you go.
Hi, Zafra.
It's okay.
How much gallons of air do you need? I mean, how many layers of clothing do you put on you?
I put on
Like
a few. If I go outside, I usually have a thermal layer and my pants, and then on the top I'll have a long sleeve, and I wear this big red jacket, my big red. So I bundle up in this, and then I'm warm enough to go outside.
That is an amazing coat, Sarah. Great question. Thanks, Ms. Michael's crew. We have one online when you shared that picture of Mount Erebus. Do you ever have the chance to climb that? Do people climb that? Just tell us more about that epic mountain in the backdrop.
Yeah, it is an active volcano, so it gets to be up at elevation, and it's really hard to get to. So it's only accessible in the summertime, and it's very special scientists that are prepared with the right equipment and technology to go up there and work at altitude. So some people do go up there. I have not been up there, but it's a really neat spot to have in your backyard.
I would certainly say so. Very, very cool. Yeah, we've had a few people on this broadcast before that have climbed Erebus, so it is climbable.
Oh, yeah.
If you want to climb the tallest mountain on every continent, it's a pretty special spot. And again, one of the only lava lakes in the world, but set in Antarctica, so it's this real nice juxtaposition between fire and ice. Very, very cool, guys. Let's see, Ms. Coburn's class, if you guys want to share another question, by all means come in. North Country School, we can come to you to wrap up after that. And then we'll all say farewell because we're in our final few minutes here, folks.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi, how are you, Linda?
How you doing? Just wondering, you said on your, when you have free time, and we did laugh when you said free time because you seem to be very busy. And you said you were climbing somewhere. You like to ice climb? Is it climbing on a certain mountain? My kids were wondering where that was.
I love ice climbing, and that's one of the things I'll do back at home in New York, but there's no ice climbing here. It's just a bit too risky and dangerous, and you have to actually bubble wrap everything you do because you can't afford to get hurt because it's very hard to get out. So that's something that I keep for at home, but we do have a climbing wall. So it's 2 ropes inside, and I'm the climbing POC. So I teach people to go rock climbing in my spare time. So I pick a few walls to climb so I don't climb all of the walls.
Wonderful, thank you. It's nice to know too that they were talking about safety too, and you're right. You are so secluded, right? Number one, right? Safety, health, and safety. Thanks, Sarah.
You're welcome.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Linda.
it's not a place to be reckless, actually.
No, we do a lot of programs with ocean explorers, polar explorers, Antarctica particularly, and astronauts for that matter. And it's really quite amazing how much prep goes into making sure people are never in a situation where they're likely to be injured. So I'm really glad we covered that. And I just want to note in our final 2 and a bit minutes here, we're going to take one more question live. If any of our other classes have additional questions, email us at exploringbytheseat-of-your-pants. We'll get them to Sarah. This will be recorded. We're going to try and get this on our YouTube channel as soon as sort of regulations allow. But I want to say a huge thank you to you guys. You have been an amazing audience. And we'll head back to Lake Placid. Quick note for North Country School, when you're done asking the question, just mute your mic right after and we won't get that reverb. But nice to have you in. Take us away, guys.
Okay.
Isn't it dangerous to have an active volcano in the backyard or in the right by where you live?
Yeah, but it's actually erupting all of the time.
But it's actually erupting all the time.
Energy rather than a bigger explosion. So it's okay. And it looks like it's close, but it is actually pretty far away. So we're not worried that we're in a danger zone. And there are scientists that have seismic measuring devices up there. So if it were to rumble a little bit more, it would usually build up to something. So we'd have some sort of indication. So it is a risk, but it's one that we've mitigated and we're not actually too worried that it's going to erupt and cause us harm. So it's just little baby eruptions, nothing big.
That -40 is a much bigger risk to people out on the ice, and this is why you do so much prep to make sure people are safe in Antarctica. So
yeah,
that's a great question, guys, to wrap us up. I know we could go all day. Email us some more. Sarah, before we wrap up in our final minute, is there any last message you want to leave all our classrooms with about Antarctica, your experience there, just before we say farewell?
I also wanted to say that the planes still fly to McMurdo occasionally in the winter. So if you guys want to send a postcard, that is also a way that we could communicate, and I can write back to you and send a postcard to your school. And I really appreciate you guys and talking to you. One of the things I miss most is kids. So it brings me a lot of joy in sharing this experience.
I'm going to legit send you a postcard when we're done this broadcast. I can't wait. Send me the address and I'll get it to our classrooms too, but that would be super cool to do. Sarah, thank you so, so much. Have a wonderful day. We really appreciate your time and we hope to see you again anytime you're keen. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Great. Thank you, Jesse. Thank you, all the teachers in the classroom. It was lovely to talk to you today.
Bye, everybody. See you later.